running an Airbnb business can actually be very overwhelming, especially if you're just starting out or you're just busy with life, situations, family, and all these other things. And always having to kind of control everything and play with everything can actually be very, very time consuming. That's why it's honestly very important to be able to automate the really pesky things in your business that don't need you to constantly be there every single day to manage and to handle. And one of those things, which is definitely one of the most important things to really just automate, even if it's just a little bit more of 50%, 70% of, is really just your pricing. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be going over my pricing, how I automate like 80 to 90% of my pricing, and really just show you how to do that, the intricacies. I use Price Labs, so you have some context, and I'm going to show you exactly why I use Price Labs, how I use Price Labs, in what ways. In no way, shape, or form am I telling you to copy my settings, because I'm in a completely different market. I could have a different listing type than you. So there's a lot of factors involved. But the reason I'm sharing this is so that you can have a better understanding of how Price Labs actually works, and some settings that you can implement today that will drastically improve how much time you actually need to spend in your business, because you can really just automate a lot of it. So let's dive right in. So what Price Labs is a pricing automation software or a tool. Fun fact, hotels actually also use Price Labs for their internal data as well. So this is actually very, very cool. What Price Labs does more specifically, it tracks the pricing and the occupancy of the houses in a specific neighborhood or an area, or really just in an entire market. And then it tells you and helps you adjust your pricing and shows you what you should be priced at, what it recommends for you to be priced at. But not only that, you can actually change and automate and really just customize your preferences within the software as well. That way you get a lot of your time back. I know it could be a lot, but I'm gonna really break this down for you so you can actually start utilizing this at any level. But this is really going to be how to actually first set up and start your automation mastermind process, if you will. So it'll be very, very simple. Okay, so first things first, what you're going to see here is your base and minimum pricing. When you first set up your listing on Airbnb, you're going to have that option on Airbnb as well. However, if you set up a listing on Vrbo or Booking.com, you have to have all these different prices in different platforms, which can get very, very confusing and overwhelming very, very quickly, especially if you want to grow your business. So with Price Labs, you can set it up at the Price Labs level, and it will actually shoot those prices at all the other platforms. So if you make any tweaks here, you don't have to make any individual tweaks in any other platforms. It honestly just makes your life a lot easier. So I would set my base pricing here at $250 to $500. That's for me, for my listing. And what you can do, you can also choose help me choose a base pricing, and it will actually give you recommendations of what you can use and what you should do as well. Okay, so that's really just the base of it. Where Price Labs really shines, it's the customization options. You have tons of options to really customize, and I'm not gonna go through all of them because it's gonna be overwhelming, and it's gonna make this video go on for days. But what I wanna show you for the purpose of this video for you is one of the automations that I started using a couple of months ago that I really, really, really enjoyed, and it helped me really just get my time back and be able to automate that pricing in a way that I can still get reservations, but I'm not thinking about it because I'm setting up the presets for what I want my pricing to look like beforehand. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. And what that is going to be the occupancy-based price adjustment. So I'm going to show you exactly what this is and what it does and why it's so useful. I know it looks like a lot. Trust me, it's not as much as you think. I'm going to go through it column by column just so you have an understanding on how to use it. So the first column is going to be your occupancy, okay? So it's going to be 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. So this is just really just your occupancy on how booked or how occupied your listing is over a certain period of time. So here you have the day ranges. So 0 to 15 days. Here, what this means here is at 0 to 15 days, if you're under 10% occupied, this is what it's going to drop your prices by. So it's going to drop your prices based on the demand and the occupancy for your listing over a certain period of time, which is actually very, very cool. So let's actually break this down. So let's say you're in a market where, let's say for your listing, it's 30 to 60 days out. So let's use this example here. So let's say in 30 to 60 days out, which is a month to 2 months out, your listing has no reservations, it's not occupied, it's under 10%, like you don't know what's going on, it's not being booked. What you can do in this setting is you can actually now set an automation where it automatically reduces the price a little bit more aggressively to incentivize people to book that reservation. So let's say it's 30 to 60 days out and you're expecting to be like 20, 30, even 40% occupied, but maybe it's low season, no one's booking. What you can do is you can set this to like a negative 20, you can set this to a 25% discount. And that's you being very, very aggressive because you have no reservations and you want people to come in. The really cool thing about this is that once you hit that 10% threshold, and this could be just one booking, that could be 3, 4, 5 days. But once you get that booking that hits that 10% threshold, that discount automatically goes away and it goes to the second tier, which is 20%. And when you're between 10 and 20% occupied, you can now set up your pricing. So let's say now you're 10% occupied, but you don't want to continue giving that 25% discount. You just wanted to get a little bit more bookings, but you still want more people to book at 20% because you still want to increase, because your comfort zone where you feel like you're good and your business is performing well is anywhere from 30 to 60 days. Let's say you want to be at 40% booked, and that's the threshold. And anything under that, you're kind of panicking because you don't know what's going on. But anything over that, you're like, maybe maybe my prices were too low. So if that's the case, if once you get to that 10% occupancy, you don't want to give that 20% discount, you can now do a 15% discount. So it's not as much, but you still want people to really just book this apartment or house, or really just reserve your house. Now, once you get to that 30, 40%, I hope you understand where I'm going. So now let's say you're at 40%. And this is good. Like, this is good. You don't want to lower your prices anymore, and you want to just get people to come in and keep reserving at the price that you're at. You can put it at 0, or if you're in a market where you at 40%, it's at 40%, you know that that's very, very good demand for it being this far out, and you actually want to increase it a little bit just so you slow down those reservations. You can actually increase it by 10%. I'm just giving you examples of how this works and in which scenarios you'd want to either increase or decrease the pricing. That way you have a more robust idea on how you should use this tool. Okay, so now let's say it's 30 days out and you're 60% occupied, 30 to 60 days out, and you're like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is very good, but am I undercutting myself? Am I priced too low, and that's why everybody's booking? What you can do when you hit to that 50 to 60% threshold, you can actually just increase your prices about 15%. So it slows down your reservation, but each reservation that you're going to get is going to be worth significantly more. It's going to be worth about 15% more. So this way, as you get more reservations at a certain date, you can actually increase your pricing. That way you don't get booked too low, but you're incentivized to still get bookings. But people who are going to book at a premium if they're booking that far out. Depending on your market, depending on where you are, you can even set this up to like 61, 90 days. You can even do 90 to like 365 days. So there's really no limit to what you can do it yet, at least not that I know of. But depending on your market and depending on how far out you want to get booked, this is going to be extremely useful. Of course, the more you understand your market and the more you understand your listing and really just the high seasons and low seasons, the better and the more robust you can really make this. So now let's move down to 16 to 30 days. So now let's say it's 30 days out, it's less than a month out, and you have 0 bookings and you don't know what is literally going on, because I would be freaking out. What you can do to really incentivize people to book your home, you can even do like a 30% or even a 40% off. If you have bigger listings and you're charging like $800, $900 a night, drop it to like $400, because it's 30 days out, and usually people book like 60 to 90 days. It's 30 days out, you don't know what happened, and you're here. This is a position you really never want to be in, and that's why you have all of these presets. You can set this to like -10, you can set this to like a 5% or even 0 because it's so far out. But that's why you have all these presets. You don't want to hit this area, but if you do for any reason get to this area, you already have an automation that kicks in. You already have a system that kicks in that automatically just gets very, very aggressive with your discounts. Now, let's say it's 15 days out and you're 40% occupied and you feel good, you can keep it at -5 or you can keep it at 0. But now let's say it's 30 days out or 15 to 30 days out and you're like 80% occupied. If you're 80% occupied, you could either just bump it by about 5%, or if you want to bump it by about 5% if you know that the demand is very, very high in that area, or just lower it by 5% because you want to get to that 90% occupancy. As you get closer to the dates of 0 and 15 days, for my strategy, I'm not as aggressive. Reason being is because at 0 to 15 days, I kind of want to go and see what's going on, especially if my occupancy is below like 70 or 80% in 15 days. I want to see what's going on and really just make that adjustment. So that's for me, and my pricing strategy is I do this just so it's automated and I don't have to think about it, and I can have a consistent 30 to 60% occupancy automated. And then that other 20%, 15%, 25%, 30%, I can just go in there every once in a while and see what's going on. Or maybe I can see that, oh, like I'm 70% occupied and it's a month out. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it because I know that I have a discount. Let's say I'm 70% occupied 30 days out. I know that I have a bump for 5% so that I don't get too booked because there's already very high demand in that area, so I can keep this. So this is really cool. I hope you have a more in-depth understanding. the best thing for you to do is to really just go on Price Labs and play around with this yourself and really just test it. I wouldn't get very, very aggressive in the front, especially if you're very new and you don't really understand your market. But this is something that you can definitely utilize and test, and even just do like 5 or 10% bumps within these date ranges and have an idea of how it really affects your occupancy and how it affects your booking. I would really keep an eye on this, because once you truly understand how this works, this could be a very, very powerful tool in certain specific seasons, because it can just really automate a lot. It could really just offset a lot of the burden of you trying to understand why you're not getting booked 90 days out. If you know that 90 days out, let's say 90 days out, you want to have at least one booking at a higher premium. You can even do like a 5%. And then let's say you're 30% booked. Let's just say 90 days out, you're 30% booked. Let's say you're entering high season and you completely forgot to change your pricing, and Price Labs, which sometimes will be able to give you suggestions on changing your price. The thing is, Price Labs does small adjustments and it's not as aggressive unless you set that. However, with this, if you get to that 90-day out and you're 30% occupied and people are booking, you can get very, very aggressive very, very quickly, because you still have some time to get bookings. So you can even do like once you hit that 30%, or let's just even say that 40% threshold, you can set a 30% premium on your pricing. So as soon as you get past 30%, because people are booking your home, it automatically bumps up your pricing by about 30%. So that even if you forgot to kind of go in there and make some tweaks, or Price Labs wasn't as aggressive, or your automations weren't as aggressive in increasing the pricing, then this now comes in and absolutely just sets the tone for what you need to be at anyway. So it's really good. And if you want to really just be very, very in depth, and let's say you're 50% out, 50% occupied 90 days from now, which means you're definitely underpriced, I would even do like a 40%, 50% bump here. And I do this in either quarters or high season and low season. That way it's always dynamic to your market and dynamic to what's actually going on around you. Hopefully this gives you a better understanding of how this works, because once you really understand how this works, you can offset a lot of your pricing strategy to just have this do it for you. And then when you get to that 15 to 30 days out, you can now come in and see what's going on with the business, check up on it, make sure that your occupancy metrics are being met at those days, and you can just keep running your business and focus on growing and scaling your business. I honestly really love these settings because it allows me to automate a lot of tedious aspects of the business without me kind of opening my computer every single day and kind of like looking at data all day. I would literally lose my mind. So I love these kind of settings because I can automate a lot of it and focus on actually growing and building the business, which is how I'm actually able to find listings that are making me over $10,000 a month. I actually made a video on the exact systems and process I've used to actually find 6-figure listings, or listings that have made me over $10,000 a month consistently. So if you want to watch that video as well, click the link here. And on top of that, if you're also an Airbnb host or looking to be an Airbnb or get into Airbnb, and you want to learn more from people who are in the exact same space, or just share ideas, share philosophies, share systems, I've actually created a free school community. It's completely free. It's going to be with other people who are just wanting to learn, grow, and build their own Airbnb businesses for themselves. Where we share ideas, we share strategy. So if you want access to this free school community, just click the link below to get access to that. So thanks once again for watching this video. I hope you got a lot of value. I love making these videos because it helps me learn more about all of these automations, and hopefully it helps you automate your business and get your time back. So you can actually do what you wanted to do, because that's the entire reason we started a business in the first place. But anyways, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.